Singer-songwriter, poet, arranger and producer Rachael Sage is back with her new album, The Other Side, on Empress Records. With 15 tracks of emotionally charged and intricately woven music that recall the classic retro warmth of the 70s and 80s, Rachael's latest 15th studio album is one of the most grounded and stunning of her illustrious career and features a cover of Yazoo, Only You, Maria McKee, Breathe, and a ballad by 90s New York City female-fronted rockers Danielle's Mouth, entitled Forgive Me This. Also, a beautiful track on the album which features Howard Jones too. And Rachael joins me now. Hello, Rachael. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm fabulous for this wonderful day. I've been so looking forward to speaking to you, Rachael, and I've been thoroughly enjoying your music. Now, for listeners who are just discovering your music, can you tell us about how your love of music began?
Absolutely. I love that question because my beginnings with music were quite quirky. No one in my family is musical. In fact, my dad is tone deaf, but everyone loves music. And so I was surrounded by music from a young age. My dad loved doo-wop and all kinds of 50s and 60s songs. And my mother was more the kind of elegant Cole Porter, Gershwin, Broadway aficionado. So I was surrounded by great melodies. But from the first time that I touched a piano, I just was curious and I started playing it. And I think I was only like 2.5, 3 years old. So it started very young. And then I would come home from ballet class every day and start playing all of that music by ear. So, you know, I didn't really have too much to do with it. It was just some kind of spirit coming through me. And I'm just grateful that my tone deaf parents had a piano in their living room.
That's right. And thank goodness for the platters as well.
Amen to that.
That's right. With a bit of doo-wop and all that going on there.
Oh,
absolutely fantastic there. Who were your idols when you were growing up?
I've always loved pop music of all kinds. So it really spans the range from, you know, Madonna to Elvis Costello to Carole King and James Taylor. I would say every era's pop music I became a fan of, you know, so it started with the doo-wop, but then music from the 60s. I loved the Beatles. I was obsessed with them in my teens. And then as I got to college, I got really into neo-folk music. Sinead O'Connor, Suzanne Vega, Ani DeFranco. And, you know, a lot of people started comparing me to Kate Bush just because I guess I looked a little like her. I was a ballet dancer and I played the piano. So even though I didn't think I sounded that much like her, I welcomed the comparisons because it introduced me to her music. And I will say that a lot of her fan base has really embraced me through the years. So that has been a big blessing.
And I don't know if this is but this is actually a compliment because I thought you were a little bit like, remember the song 9 Stories by Lisa Loeb?
I love Lisa Loeb. Yes, we're kind of contemporaries. We came up in the New York scene together. And I met her actually when I first got to New York City, and we hung out together. We played shows together. So I've always been, you know, really excited by her music. And I love that reference. Thank you.
And also Suzanne Vega as well.
Sure, yes. I played Lilith Fair with her when I was just starting out, and she was full of good advice and just, you know, obviously she's a genius. She's one of the best lyricists I've ever encountered. Her music is so poetic, so she has definitely been a big influence on me.
Excellent. I would love to speak to Lisa Loeb. I have been trying my best, but I haven't got there yet. So maybe we can have a chat afterwards.
Yeah, it sounds good.
See if we can get her on the breakfast show, and as well as Phil Wilson's Vinyl Revival.
She has her own radio show on Sirius XM. Digital radio in America, all about the 90s. So, you know, I'll do my best. She's a busy gal, but I'll connect you if I can.
I bet you she is. But thank you so much. That would be great. Marvelous. Sure. Now, what was it like recording your first album? Because you've released, I mean, this is the 15th that is out now.
It is the 15th album. I've put out an average of, you know, one album every year and a half or so, with a couple of exceptions. But what was it like putting out my first album? Well, I'll be honest, you know, I started making demos when I was 12. I got a 4-track tape recorder Fostex 4-track tape recorder for my bat mitzvah. It was a bit of an unorthodox and not exactly a religious gift. But in lieu of some of my Hebrew school peers getting, a silver pen or some pretty earrings or whatever, my very wise extended family got together, and they already knew that I was this kind of obsessive songwriter. I've been writing songs since I was really little. And so one of them was very technically inclined and convinced everyone else that this would be something that would really make an impact on my life. And it absolutely did. For about a week, I looked at it in a box in the living room. It was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I don't know if I like this. And then I opened it up and I plugged it in and I started experimenting. And within months, I was fancying myself a record producer. So really, from making demos to making records was not a big leap. It's basically the equivalent of going from 4 tracks to 8 tracks or 16 or 24. So it was a very organic development for me. And by the time I was 18, I was, definitely setting my sights on putting out an album.
Excellent. And on the first album, which I haven't heard yet, which I'll have to get a copy of, which I bet is fantastic, but did it have any tunes that you could dance to at a bar mitzvah?
That's a great question. When my first record, I was so self-serious, as we are as teenagers, we're very navel-gazing, angst-ridden. I was going through a lot. I was in college. So I don't know if I was making too much dance music, but my early demos are all dance music. I was really very into synth pop music as a kid. And then I kind of took a left turn and got into folk and, poetic, very reflective music. So I kind of eased into the type of music I'm doing now from a much more pop-based beginning.
Right. Well, your new album, The Other Side, is a fabulous album, which has been released with an alternative mix CD too. What was it like writing and producing this album?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun because, we'd all been kind of clamped in place for a long time. And just the idea that I would be able to get out behind this record and support it live was enough fuel probably for me to have made 6 albums, So I recorded most of it in my new adoptive hometown in Hudson Valley, New York, which is about an hour and a half outside of New York City. And it's just a beautiful, very, it's full of beautiful nature and wildlife and a very small artistic community, So I'm getting verklempt, getting choked up. But it was great because I was able to convey a lot of my excitement about being part of this new community on the album. So I recruited, various musicians, local musicians, and then even sent files across the pond to some people in England too. So it was great. I love making records. I could do it all day, every day.
I would say it's wonderful as well when you're actually in wonderful surroundings. I remember Queen when they recorded the final album. I don't know if they went to Sweden or somewhere, or maybe the Netherlands, and recorded the album there. And it was just to have that. You could concentrate on the music because it was so special with it being the final album that Freddie could do, as it were. And it was I think it's just wonderful if you can find somewhere where you can be creative in wonderful surroundings.
Amen to that. And, any opportunity for someone like yourself to compare my existence in any way to Queen is a welcome one. So thanks for that.
No problem at all. I'm sure Brian May is looking in and he'll be in touch.
Right on.
Now, talking about stars, Howard Jones appears as a special guest vocalist in a duet with you on the album, on the track I Made a Case, who has offered you so much encouragement with your music. Was it by chance that he happened to appear on the track? As I hear, you had to strip back the track as didn't want anything being in the way of your voices telling the story.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm still pinching myself that he was generous enough to sing on my album, but it was a very organic process, actually. I have been touring with him on and off for the last several years. So I was actually on the road with Howard when lockdown got underway. We played our last show together in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in America. And then, everything came to a very dramatic and unceremonious stop. He was able to get one of the last flights out. Rather than be trapped in America, he got home just in time. So, it was just one of those things. I had to summon up the courage to kind of float the idea by him, because he has been very supportive, like you said. And that was my third or fourth tour with him already, about 3 years ago. So we were in touch by email and text. And, I just said, hey, I know we're not touring. Maybe would you like to sing on my record? And he was like, absolutely. Send me your track. He was so enthusiastic. And like you said, he really took time with it. He cared so much. Some people they'll do whatever the first thing is that comes to their head and bang it out in 10 minutes, whatever, that's it. But I'm just so grateful that he had the grace and thoughtfulness to really make sure that it was the right part, and it didn't, it only added to the sentiment, which was very important to him. It might have been more important to him than I was just happy that he was singing on it.
Because I've read that I've read that the word he wanted to be true to the words, and he wanted to be honest with the getting the message out in the song, rather than having lots of instruments and things, just strip it right back, and then it gets the listener's attention.
Yes, he
actually gets the message of the song.
He was very candid. He actually heard the very first mix that we did.
Right.
And he told me that he thought it was a little too busy and that we did need to strip it back a little bit. And of course, I respect him so much that I took that advice very seriously. And we tried round 2, passed muster, and it's on the record. So hooray.
Oh, it sounds absolutely beautiful as well. I love it. I love it. You've recently been on a 21-date UK tour, traveling the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. Are there any memorable moments you could share with us about the tour?
Oh, wow. First of all, thanks for reminding me how many shows I did. Sometimes I forget. I start taking them for granted.
Lucky 21 there.
Yeah, that is a lucky number.
It is.
Oh my gosh, I love playing everywhere in England, but off the bat, I always just feel like I'm coming home when I play in London. Lovely. And we played a wonderful small venue called The Chapel, which was part of the Irish Center. And the acoustics were so beautiful. That was a highlight. Let's see. We also played in Barnoldswick. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And that was a quirky town. And, just anywhere new is always exciting. But I don't have my whole tour list in front of me. If you start rattling some names, I'll tell you, was it yay or nay?
Yeah, how did the people in Newcastle upon Tyne take your music? I bet you they loved you, because we love the folk music here.
That was a highlight for sure. And yes, you're absolutely right. They are wonderful listeners and always, really tune into the lyrics. And when we hang out at the merch table afterwards, they come up and ask me, what the songs are about. So can't wait to go back there.
Lovely, lovely. You should try and for your next visit, if you learn the song Cushy Butterfield, I'm sure they will go, wow, because that's a Northeast anthem.
That's excellent advice.
The Bladen Races.
The Bleedin' Races?
Bladen. Yeah.
That was just the accent or the spelling?
It's Blaydon, Bladen Races.
Okay.
So if you look that one up, they'll definitely love that one. But on tour, you've worked with some of the best singers in the music business, such as Annie DeFranco, Beth Hart, Howard Jones, and Grammy winners such as Sean Colvin and Judy Collins, with whom you also recorded a critically acclaimed duet of Neil Young's Helpless. What was it like working with such great people, and are there any highlights you could tell us about that?
Well, I think you just rattled off the highlights, but yes, no, I've been very fortunate. I've been doing this a very long time, and we start out thinking we can do it alone. We strike out, we're full of youthful courage and a little bit of audacity, or as we say in Yiddish, chutzpah.
Right.
And then, the older you get, the more you really learn that lesson over and over, that you know nothing and you're here to learn and to absorb, and then to take in lessons from those you admire and kind of feel out how trying those colors on feels for yourself. So in the instance of collaborating with Judy, you can imagine how overwhelmingly exciting that was for someone whose favorite decades are the 60s and 70s. I mean, they're my favorite decades of music. And so the fact that she is such a, godmother of folk was really exciting. But I will also say that, like Howard, she's a very down-to-earth, loving and lovely person. So you try not to, think about the hype too much. And people are people, and you just, I don't know, you just are present, and hopefully you don't pass out, and it all works out.
Right. That's right. Yes, I bet you it is. I mean, I've interviewed some people over the time that have been doing the interviews here on the good old Zoom here, which I actually only started in March doing Zoom chats, because it was a case of just, listeners just not able to see the video afterwards and things like that. And there was an actor which interviewed, there's Alan Clark of the Hollies.
Sure.
He is very, very down to earth. And the writers of How Will I Know and I Want to Dance with Somebody for Whitney Houston, Boy Meets Girl, they were just, it's just like speaking to yourself.
Ooh, I'd love to talk to them.
So relaxing and, such fun, So it's nice. It's great when people are down to earth and really respect each other's artistry, as it were, and give advice, if needed, kind of thing. So it's wonderful that. Now, on tour in the past, you supported Imelda May. What was it like, life on the road with her?
Oh my gosh, she is the nicest person and so completely creative. Every bone in her body, every, cell just seems to be alive with inspiration and sensitivity. When I first reached out to her about the possibility of supporting her, it was in part because she had just released a poetry book, and I had just released a poetry album, Poetica, which is my lockdown project. And I just thought, this could really work well. We're both a little bit theatrical, but mainly, rock, pop, singer-songwriters. Yes. But we bring in these different elements like poetry, spoken word, more ethnic instrumentation sometimes, and just a reverence for lyricism, for the written word. And so, I was shocked and amazed when she invited me to tour with her, but I also thought it really made sense. And I was very happy that it actually did. Her audiences were really warm. She treated us like family, and now she's starring in a play in Ireland. So I'm just cheering her on, and I'm sure that's going to be wildly successful because she's just brilliant in everything she does.
It's wonderful, wonderful. Is there a particular city that you like performing in?
Sure. Probably my favorite city I've ever performed in is Dublin.
Right.
I lived there briefly as a teenager. I was in college, and my very first job was as an intern with the composer Bill Whalen.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Lord of the Dance, River Dance?
Not Lord of the Dance.
No, not Lord of the Dance.
Yes. Similar, but different.
Similar.
He was brilliant, obviously. But I was kind of like, his catch-all assistant. And it also enabled me to live and breathe Irish music. I discovered folks like Glenn Hansard and the Frames and, Luca Bloom, so many artists who eventually inspired me to become a little bit more rootsy and organic in my instrumentation. So that's one of my favorite cities. But again, I love London. I love Berlin. I love Florence, Tel Aviv. I've played in a lot of really great cities. Tokyo.
Wow.
But yeah, I like to get around. Don't
Absolutely
on
amazing. Absolutely amazing. When you were in Ireland, did you hear any music by Brian Kennedy?
No, actually,
No, if you may have to look him up because he's quite.
Thank you.
Yes, he's the one that really he's like your kind of style, kind of thing.
Fantastic.
So you'll have to look him up. Yes, he actually originally sung that song, which is worldwide known. "You Raise Me Up." You raise me up.
Oh wow, that's a great song.
So that was released. So he sung it first on his album "A Better Life," I believe it's called.
Okay, I probably heard it, but I'm not always the greatest with names because I also run a record label, and I'm always releasing other artists too. So sometimes I'm just focused on the music that I'm working on.
That's right. Your label Empress there is doing very, very well, isn't it? Has it been going for quite a long time now?
Yeah, over 20 years. So
wow.
Lots to celebrate. It's been a wild adventure, many ups and downs, but we can own our mistakes and look forward to, just more excitement. We just signed a new artist, James Mastro, who'll be putting out an Americana rock record.
Excellent.
Early in the spring. So yeah.
Yes, you'll have to drop us the tune and we'll play it on the radio here.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem at all. Now, talking about songs, is there a song you really enjoy performing on tour?
Yes, I'm getting the overview. I have my album right here. You can see.
Snap.
I think my favorite song to perform is the title track, "The Other Side," because no matter what mood that I might be in, if I'm a little tired or disgruntled in any way, which doesn't happen often, but it does happen, it's kind of a mantra for me just to be hopeful and to remember that it's, this too shall pass, the clouds will clear. So it's kind of a gospel, folk pop meditation on hope and on overcoming obstacles and triumphing in the end. So I think we could all use a little bit of that energy.
Definitely a lot of positive energy. That's what we definitely need. And we certainly get that with your album, because on your album, The Other Side, there's a vast array of tracks of different tempos to entertain you. As you say, no matter what mood you're in. And a track in particular, Rebecca has a rock guitar, violins, and the song builds as it carries you along. Is there a story behind it?
Oh, there sure is. That's a fun one, actually. I do enjoy playing that live too. I wrote that song in about 24 hours. My co-producer, Andy Zula, was trying to be creative with how to celebrate his wife's 50th birthday under lockdown. And he normally would go all out, probably champagne and flowers and a fancy dinner and invite all our friends over. But the day before, he was frustrated because we were all in one place in isolation. He said, I just need that one last special thing to give to her. Can you write a song for her?
Oh, lovely.
Of course, I can't say no to you, but I didn't know her that well. So I just asked her for a short list of 10 of her finer qualities. And then I put them all into the song for her. And she's a lovely woman. And she's a pro bono lawyer. So, the line about the lawyer in there, and she plays tennis. And so it was fun painting this portrait of a beautiful, intelligent woman and being able to celebrate her in that way.
Beautiful. And would you ever release that on one of your CDs, Rachel?
Rebecca. Oh, it is on the album.
Oh, that was on the album. That's right. No, but I didn't know it was that particular song, you see, that you were talking about. Right. Okay.
And there's actually a video out for it featuring a wonderful Broadway dancer gallivanting all over Battery Park City in New York. So it's fun if you want to check that out.
Excellent. And is that on YouTube and Vivo and such like?
Yes, it is. Or linked from my website, rachelsage.com.
Fabulous. Now, another track that stands out is a cover of Yazoo. That's a different thing altogether. We'll rewind that. Yazoo's Only You, which charted as high as number 2 in the UK Top 40. Is this a personal favourite of yours, as the arrangement sounds fabulous? Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. My favourite word is fabulous, so I appreciate that. Yes, I've always been such a fan of Alison Moyet's vocals. I just think she's one of the most just kind of gritty, grounded, soulful female vocalists. And I had the great opportunity to hear her solo material live at Hammerstein Ballroom in New York a few years back.
Wow.
So while she didn't write this particular song, it was Vince Clarke of Yazoo. It certainly seems emblematic of her spirit and her vibe. She made it the big hit that it is. And it's always been one of my favorites. So while I don't cover many songs, typically during lockdown, we had the time, to kind of dig deep and start playing around with things like that. And on my live streams for my fans on Facebook, I would perform mostly original material, but sometimes a request or two. So I started playing that one, and it just felt right to include on the album.
It's absolutely fantastic. So get yourself a copy of the album, Rachael Sage, The Other Side, to hear that one. Now, the vinyl revival is upon us, so I must ask you, have you ever bought a vinyl record? And if so, what is your favorite single and album?
Of course, I bought many vinyl albums. Can you bear with me 30 seconds?
Of course, no problem at all.
I just bought
a
vinyl album. It's in the tour van, but I have it written down who it is. I'd never heard of this woman, and they recommended her to me because I told them that I was a singer-songwriter who loved music from the 60s and 70s. Karen Dalton. Do you know her music?
Karen Dalton?
No, Karen Dalton.
Karen Dalton. I haven't heard of that one.
I heard it playing in the store, and she's a contemporary of folks like Laura Nyro and Carole King.
Oh, right.
Be much beloved by Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen. So,
yes. Back to the bone.
About it. Yeah.
Yes.
That was my purchase today at a wonderful record shop here in Greenwich, London.
Lovely. Was it a bargain?
Absolutely.
Excellent. I'm a fan of a bargain myself. Nothing wrong with that. And is there a 7-inch single that you've bought in the past when you were growing up that you would be your go-to single if there was a turntable right next to you there in the hotel in Greenwich?
7-inch single. I'm more of an album gal, to be honest. I've just bought so many albums through the years. But what is very exciting to me is that my dad has an incredible vinyl collection from his youth, and he's so delighted that I now have a vinyl player because he doesn't anymore. So he just said he's going to bring over his whole vinyl collection to my new home, and we're going to listen to Buddy Holly and the Drifters and the Platters and the Beatles and all of it. So I'm sure I'll have many favorites very soon.
Excellent. Yes. Well, don't forget, you can hear Phil Wilson's Vinyl Revival where Put the Needle on the Record every week. So there you go then. Now, do you have any future projects coming up you can tell us about?
Yes. Well, speaking of vinyl, I just finalized the artwork on my vinyl of The Other Side.
Wow.
It takes quite a while to be pressed and all of that. So it is in the works. I just approved the test pressing yesterday, and it sounded great. So I'm very excited about that. We should have it in hand sometime in September. So whoopee.
Fabulous. And I look forward to putting the needle on the record on that one if you're able to send us a copy there.
Absolutely. And then, for the remainder of the year, I'll be working on that acoustic record I mentioned, which is the reimagining of The Other Side, and I'm going to be calling it Another Side, and it will come out in February 2024.
Well, we'll definitely look forward to that. Absolutely fantastic. Now, your new album, The Other Side, is, like you mentioned, out now on Empress Records. Please, could you tell us where listeners can follow you and also buy a copy of the album today?
Absolutely. So all of my social media is linked from my website, rachelsage.com. And that's spelled a little quirky, Rachael. And, of course, I'm on all the socials. I'm on TikTok and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So I really love to hear from people directly and try to be as accessible as I can, within reason.
Within reason. And we'll look forward to getting that vinyl as well for the fans of vinyl. You can get that from around September.
Yes.
Fabulous. From rachelsage.com. Now, Rachel, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Finally, could you introduce your duet with Howard Jones, I Made My Case?
Absolutely. So this is the new duet from my album, The Other Side. It's called I Made a Case and features the fabulous Howard Jones.
Rachael Sage, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to chat with you again soon. All the best.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.